Do you find list comprehensions confusing in Python? Many people do. I once did. I'm going to show you a way of reading them and transforming them into a way it's easy to understand and useful, because it's a fantastic data structure, fantastic syntactical way of going about achieving a problem, but often people like to jam them all in one line and do something crazy with them. So I'm going to take this list comprehension, you might find something like this in the wild, and turn it into something readable. So let's get into it. The very first thing you find in a list comprehension is always the thing you want out of it. So this is called declarative style. The first thing is always the thing you want out of it, and then every subsequent thing is the sort of series of steps to make that thing happen. So I'm going to call this thing nums2, and what we want back is clearly something that we're turning into an integer. So probably a string that looks like an integer and just needs to have int called on it. The next thing we have, we're going to look for the first for expression, and we're going to go all the way until we find another for expression. And if we get to the end, then that's the only for expression. So here we have a for expression for row and data. Okay, so we're just going to copy that in there, put it on its own line. Then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to find the next for till the end. So we found the next for, and there's nothing after that. So this is sort of where we end. Okay, so the question still remains, what's the order of the for expressions in the list comprehension? Is it the same as a nested for loop? The answer is yes, it is. So I'm going to take a brief detour here and create a nested for loop to show you how that's the same as what we have here in nums. Okay, so let's just call this nums result. This is going to be the container for the data that we want back from our imperative style for loops that are going to be the equivalent of this of nums on line 3. This messy list comprehension, this intimidating list comprehension. So we have nums result, right? So we're just going to rewrite the original nums for row in data, for x in row, if x and stir of x is a digit, nums result append, and then we're going to append int of x. So this is the equivalent, this is the imperative equivalent of the declarative version of nums, this messy nums. We can verify that. We're going to print nums, and then we're going to print nums result. And these should be equivalent. Moment of truth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. They are equivalent. Okay, so the last thing we want to do is print nums2, which is my refactoring of nums, and that should be equivalent as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. So all of these things print the same thing, which is just to go to show you that these are equivalent ways of achieving the same result. Now, you might want to stick with this one because it is more readable from like a more beginner perspective. However, if you do want to stick with the list comprehension, I would advise that you use separate lines to delineate sort of the steps of your comprehension. So the first one, again, is always what you want back. So it's declarative. Tell me what you want back. Then the next one is the outer for loop scope. And then the subsequent ones are the inner for loops. Okay, so I want an integer of x. What's x? Well, let's start with what we're dealing with in general here. We have data, we're going to go through each row in data. And then we have, for each row, we want the item in the row. And we're going to do some stuff to that item just to make sure. We're going to guard whether we keep that item with this if. You could put the if, like new line tabbed. I think that will still work, but I'm not sure you really need that. It might be useful if you have compound expressions. In general, I'm just trying to say that like formatting matters with these list comprehensions. You can do yourself in the future and a fellow colleague a solid by writing list comprehensions that don't look like this. Because inevitably someone will come across this and the business use case will change, or they find a bug, so they'll add more stuff, right? They'll add another clause, and it'll just become really confusing. So this is how you write clean list comprehensions that work with your brain. It's important to write code that works with the way you think, and not code that looks like a computer itself wrote it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.